Welcome to the show. As a way of getting started, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure, Brian. It's a pleasure to be here today. So I am an enterprise sales rep for a company called Nearmap, and we're a publicly traded firm based out of Australia, offices in Salt Lake City, as well as around the nation with select employees. And we produce HD imagery and aerial data products that are very custom specific to applications like construction, engineering, urban planning, government, insurance, basically anyone who wants to survey land around them, but is frustrated or struggling with the fact that they have a relatively limited team or limited manpower and can't go out there with drones or with their own airplanes to do the surveying themselves. So we're sort of a one-stop shop, like Google Maps on steroids.
Sounds like an easy sale.
It certainly has its perks. It's a very unique market that we go after in terms of what we provide for value to the types of teams we work with.
Cool. Now, we had met through LinkedIn. I had posted a video about objection handling and felt that most of them can be prevented versus handled. You want to dive into that?
Absolutely.
Cool. Now, you probably don't hear many brand new objections, do you?
It's very common that you see, I think, across no matter what product you're selling, Brian, you see a certain subset of objections or sort of the commonalities based upon the product or the market that you're going after. And so in our case, yes, there are certain common themes of objections. Same with someone who might be selling a hardware product or someone who's selling financial services, right? There's sort of those common objections that come up time and time again, so that we try to begin to get used to them, acknowledge them, but then get past them or overcome them. And that's sort of where my curiosity came from in reaching out to you. Was you're basically talking about overcoming the objection before ever going into receiving objections.
My point was more, I think we're rushing. And I think what we're told to do is to pitch and ask for time, and then ask for a demo, and then give a proposal, and then handle the pricing objection, the timing rejection. And my point is, that's going to happen. So why walk into it? Why not build up to it? So, I mean, like the first one is, people typically, I say beg for time or ask for 15 minutes to talk about us, what we do, and how we can help, as opposed to getting into what are they up against? What are they interested in? And build a conversation without talking about us, talking about something that we're both interested in.
Which would be more of a customer-centric approach, or more of a consultative approach from the minute you engage with a prospect.
Absolutely. Because I think we're under the assumption that since it's our job to sell, that it's their job to buy, but they don't care. Right? I think
yes, I agree.
Yeah, we first have to find out, do they have the problem that we solve? So how do we dig into that? Because they don't, when they look at a vendor, a product company, or salesperson, they're thinking, what is it? What does it do? How much does it cost?
I would agree with that 100%.
Yeah. And then if that's what they're thinking, and we walk into that, they may be in market. They may have a need, but that's probably a needle in a haystack. But I bet most of the people, especially in your space, because I was in the geospatial space on the government side. Everyone I talked to had a problem, but they also had a solution that they think is a solution to their problem. But if you take the approach of what would they be curious about, what would they be interested in, you can start a dialogue and not talk about the product, but the problem that you solve.
Hmm. And I want to add to that really quickly, because one thing that I've seen a lot of my peers do over the years is talk about what we offer as being a solution. We don't offer a solution. We offer a product or a service in most cases, or a hardware product. And we'll sort of clump those together: SaaS or software or hardware. And the problem is when we go about pitching the value proposition to our prospects, we're talking about offering a solution, but we haven't even uncovered a business problem yet, or we haven't dug into the deep roots. And also, it's not a solution for us, it's a solution for them. So that word solution or solving needs to come out of their mouth, not ours.
Right. It's like a
Is that
doctor.
fair?
Yeah, a doctor giving you a bottle of pills without knowing what illness you have.
Very true.
Right. So you take that
Very true.
the pills and you're like, I hope this is what's for me. You know? Instead of like, okay, well, what are the typical symptoms that would tell you that that person is qualified?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there's
and I also want to just add one more thing. So one of the schools of thought, or one of the things that we've been preached from management over the years, right? When you find a good sales mentor, or you find a good sensei, so to speak, is overcoming objections by stating them before the prospect has the ability to state them. Now, what you're describing based upon our threads so far and some of the messaging in your video is that we have to earn the right to overcome the objections. We have to earn the right to...
My point is that we don't even approach the state that would cause the objection. Okay. Don't ask for time. Okay. Talk about them. Don't give them the impression that you're selling something. Give them the impression that you're curious about them and what they're doing. You know, approach them like you would if you met them in the real world, say at a party. You wouldn't go up to somebody and say, hey, I solved this, this, and this. Can I have 15 minutes of your time to explain how? That would be creepy, right?
Very true. That would be creepy.
Yeah, that'd be creepy. But if you went up to them and you started talking about the venue, the food, the music, and you didn't look like you were going to grab their time and take a whole, chunk of it, that you talk to them as a person. And that comes off very humanistic, because what we act like today is, the beggar on the side of the street with a sign up, sales rep needs orders without giving anything. And I think we've lost that.
True.
Yeah. And it didn't matter 15 years ago when there's only a handful of people doing it, but now there's hundreds of people doing it across phone, email, social. And until you're known, liked, and have some level of trust, you haven't earned that right to even talk about yourself or your problem or the product that you have. But if you show interest in them, helping them, they are open to that, and you build a sense of trust with them.
I'd agree. And let me give you an example. I know one of the things we talked about was having an example or showing some sort of sales engagement, right, where we could use this as sort of a tangible way to bypass the objections. So let's say we go through the discovery and I learn about their business, and we uncover a business problem after going through what Sandler would call the pain funnel. Now, at that point, oftentimes, very common for the types of people I work with to say, great, let's see a product demonstration. I'm also going to include an evaluation team. These could be my direct reports, Harry, Joe, Mary, and Larry. And what they're going to do is they're also going to jump on that product demonstration with me so that we can evaluate this as a team and see visual examples or something custom specific to my business as to how this product, or how we might be able to start developing an idea of what we think the ROI is.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, people buy either with emotion or because they're looking to save money or increase their revenue stream. That's sort of my fundamental opinion to a certain extent over most of my sales engagements.
Do you own a car?
I do, unfortunately, sometimes.
Yeah. Did you buy it because it saved you money or made you money?
And to a certain extent, you could say so. I bought it because I needed it to get to the job I had outside of the city of Boston a couple of years ago. But no, most people don't buy a car because it saves them money or it makes them money, right? Most people buy it for
how it makes them
accessibility.
feel, status, or
Yes.
right. And I think that's what, because you're probably selling to technical people as initial users of your product.
Definitely, certainly people that are familiar with products like CAD or GIS, or that want to be able to see their properties from over a large scale across large cities or large urban areas. And so just getting back to my example, right, one of the things that we find that is an objection, sort of those commonalities or those common objections that the salesperson sees across their industry or their prospective customer organizations for us would be, we don't cover the whole US because what we provide is mapping software or mapping imagery that's so resolute that I could see the flooring on your back porch and tell what type of wood it is from 10,000 feet in the air.
Okay. So they
say, well, you don't cover my whole business. You don't cover all the properties that I service as an insurance provider. Or I'm doing construction work out in Stockton, California, or somewhere that's not quite downtown San Francisco. You only cover about a third of my projects or a third of my business efforts. So that's a common objection we see. And so my assumption just is to, as sort of a someone who has been doing this for a while, is to overcome that and show them coverage map or, the areas we do cover earlier on after we uncover a business problem or a true initiative that's trying to solve something that's an inefficiency in their business. But what we're saying is that maybe that's not even the right approach, right?
That's a better approach. What I would do is before you have that demo with the team is you've got enough rapport with that one contact, say like, these demos can go on, turn into proof of concepts. Can I sit down with you for a few minutes and find out how you would use it? What problem are you trying to solve? And so that I can scope that demo that the people, it would be most relevant. Okay. And try and find out, because do they need the whole US? Probably not, right?
Mm-hmm.
But people,
True.
yeah. And you can ask that question before you tell them that you don't cover the whole US. What area do you really need? And if it was outside that, is that a big issue or a minor issue?
Interesting. So we're really getting to the fine-tuned details that could be an objection later, but in a positive sort of consultative approach by asking the right questions that say, here's the things that are important to you, here's the things that are what I would say nice to have, it's not need to haves, right?
Yes, because most likely they don't need the entire US. But of course, people like to find flaws in what you do.
It's very true.
And that's the classic problem you have when you have the one-to-many demo, where like probably you and some engineer are given the demo to this large group, and there's always going to be that one person who's going to try and find the thing that's wrong with it. And whether it's relevant or not, and they're going to bring up price, even though none of them have any budget authority. It's not their money, right?
Very true. Very true.
And you'll get wrapped around the axle trying to justify the price in that call, and it doesn't matter.
Correct. It doesn't matter because they haven't outlined a budget for, or maybe even a project at this point, right?
Right. You could be saving them millions of dollars, but if you cost $1, that's what they're going to look at.
That's very true.
Yeah.
That's very true. And I think when a lot of companies buy with multiple input from different lines of business or different business units these days, to get in true enterprise sale, you have to go through multiple departments and gain their thumbs of approval from start to finish, all the way up to the person who does sign off, VP, C-level, director, whatever the size of what you're selling is in terms of the pricing. However, there is, you're right, there's always, I like to call them naysayers. And it's always fun to try and win a naysayer over to the point where then later on, they're the one using your service or product the most. That's an interesting way to help change someone's lives. And it also tells us, or it gives me some comfort that what I'm doing is actually proactive, beneficial, and helping others in society. It gives you more of just I'm a salesperson peddling a product with a number over my head who needs to hit that in order to pay my bills, support my family, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
But those naysayers may come later in the process. Could be procurement. Procurement loves to beat you up on price because they've been, in many cases, trained to go against some of the sales strategies that we've all been keen to over the years. So let's say we get through the location coverage is not an issue, right? But we get to pricing and they see a $50,000 or $100,000 price point, and the procurement offer says, well, that's way too much money than we can allocate for this year. And it's funny, I saw the video on what if B2B strategy negotiations went on in real life in restaurants or similar type public venues. I thought that was funny because
I can
some of
save
these things actually do exist.
Yeah, I can save you tens of thousands of dollars in commission right now. If it gets to procurement and it's approved, you never have to give a penny of discount to procurement. You know why? Because it's approved.
Why?
The budget's already approved. They're torturing you. I mean, they make Al Qaeda look like nice people. The water board's coming out when you're down to procurement because they know you need the order.
That's
right?
very true.
And that's what they do. They torture you. But it took me probably 5 years to figure this out. And somebody just told me this. He said, never give them a pop. All you have to do is say, we gave the discount to the executives. You should go check with them and that they know that there's not another penny of margin here.
So you're really, I don't want to say degrading that person's authority, but because you've already got the seal of approval from the stakeholders.
Because they have no authority. Their responsibility is now procurement, not anyone before procurement, an actual purchasing agent, contracting officer, whatever title it is, they're in procurement. That person's responsibility is to process a legally binding contract with you. It is, they may get bonused on discounts. Might be just sport, but that's their responsibility. And that's what they care about, that order can be audited and they will not get in trouble. That's why it takes so long, is they're checking a bunch of boxes, making sure who owns you, that the price is competitive, get 2 other bids, whatever they're doing to make sure that file is nice and pretty. Then they care about pricing, maybe. But you'll get the order.
And I know, Brian, you've been a sales leader of multiple teams over your career. So I was curious, can you think of an engagement either with your team or with one of your team members over the years where there was a really good concrete example of not overcoming the objections, but just bypassing them altogether, and how that ended up helping you sort of either increase your business with a customer or win over that relationship and start growing it out?
Yeah, I think like even the coverage issue is a classic red herring issue. Red herring is something that just doesn't exist. It doesn't matter. I think the best approach, because it's going to come up, I bet, in your space eventually,
Hmm.
is when you meet one-on-one with somebody who owns the problem, you elicit the coverage priorities and you bring it up. It's like, well, we cover those. Is there anything else that you need? And they say, well, maybe this, maybe that. I just wanted to ask because we do not cover 100%. I don't want that to be a surprise.
Hmm.
Okay. Because somewhere along the line is going to come up, like price is going to come up at some time. But giving a price to somebody who has no budget authority, an engineer, maybe a first line manager with no ROI, no context to judge value versus cost, it just delays your deal because they're bringing it up, not because they're probably bringing it up just to talk, to understand, because all they care about is what does it do? How much is it? When you're looking at a car, of course you want to know the price, even if you're not going to buy it. You,
Hmm.
you look for a house, you know, price is one of the things, even if you're not going to buy it. But I would use it. I would throw it back, and it's like, well, it's kind of all over the map, but it's kind of, and I'm sure a company your size would have no problem. We've never had that issue. Let's talk about if it's even a match.
I like that approach. I like that approach. Have you also ever, sometimes people will say, all right, so I'm interested in this, we've got this problem. It's costing me a lot of man hours. I'm not going home and spending time with my family because I'm so bogged down with the backload of work that I have to do. And I think that something you offer could help me increase my efficiency or productivity. However, I know my boss is going to want to see price, and it's going to be one of the first things they ask even before they look at the product. So, can you help me get some idea of what your packaging options are?
Sure. Well, let's say it's 100K, just for argument's sake. I would say, it's anywhere from 10K to 250K, give or take 100K.
I totally agree with you. That's what I've used over the years too, is if you give them a window or a variety and say, well, based upon X, Y, and Z companies that I work with that are just like you, and some of the teams that I work with just like yours, here's what they often will budget or allocate
Yeah.
for this type of project.
Yeah. I think the further away you can get from the real number, the better. Because if you say, let's say you think it's going to end up at 50K, and you say, oh, it's around 40 to 60, then they're going to think 50. If you say it's,
Hmm.
anywhere from 25 to 75, give or take 40K, you've given them a window. So you satisfied the need. Is it a Tesla or is it a Toyota? Okay. You don't want to say it's a Toyota when it is a Tesla, right? Because eventually, if they're thinking 30 and you show up at 60 or 90, and you just want to satisfy the curiosity at this point and get back to how much does the business solution, how much is that worth?
I'd agree with you. I'd
Yeah.
agree with you 100% in that regard.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because you don't
Absolutely.
want the quote to go in without the business solution value.
Correct.
Yeah. Because the manager is going to look at it and go, he's just going to see a number that's a cost. He's not going to see, what do I get?
Hmm. Interesting. Interesting. Are there any other types of common objections that you think also fall under this pattern of, we mentioned the red herring, right? And we talked a little bit about pricing. Are there any other common themes that you've seen that could also fit the bill in terms of how we bypass them altogether during the sales
Yeah.
cycle? Sort of just common buckets.
Sure. The obvious ones are their time, price, and then the next one's urgency. Do this quarter or 2 years from now. Okay. you're selling something new. And if you're doing a cold outreach, there's no urgency on their side yet,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to someone who's inbound, has a recognized problem, and is looking for a solution. So what you want
Mm-hmm.
to do is you keep the momentum going to the point where you don't run into, we'll look at it next year.
Hmm.
So you have to come up with why now versus 2 years from now.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Why now? Why us and why now too?
Also,
Furthermore.
yeah.
Hmm.
So I think
Okay.
what happens today is reps in the cold outreach move too fast. You know, what happens is you get the presentation, demo, proposal, and then it dies, or what people call no
Mm-hmm.
decision. Right? Sound familiar?
Very true.
Right.
Sounds very familiar, probably to most of us out there.
Yeah, because that's like, okay, first date, second date, prenup, you know? Or proposal, whichever you prefer.
Yeah, I was about to say proposal, not even prenup.
Yeah. And then it becomes scary to them. And there's no momentum anymore. They've got everything they think they need, and you don't have any control anymore. Meaning that
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing they're asking for, and there's no next step other than order, no order. So what happens is what everyone calls no decision, but it's just it's backburnered. It's in somebody's email box. We're waiting for somebody to sit down and look at it. We're comparing
Mm-hmm.
it against the alternatives. And this is, I call it the mystery middle, because until you've been selling for 5 or 10 years and you've been burnt so many times that you don't know that this is going to happen. This is going to happen
Correct.
80, 90% of the time. The natural effect is to not buy. It is not to buy. And this is the, is it an objection? No, but it's a stall. It's it's scary. There's now people who weren't in the demo, weren't in the presentation, who don't own the business problem, whose approval you now need that you don't know. And you're
Correct.
relying on those champions who, they've now got the football, but they've never played football before. So they're like throwing the ball.
That's a great way of putting it.
Yeah. They don't know where the goal line is. And all they
Mm-hmm.
see is people and obstacles ahead of them. And then they're like, this is scary. This is work. Maybe we can live with the current solution. Maybe we can, just wait another quarter.
Or maybe we can do nothing. Exactly.
Yeah. Which is a decision.
It is. I agree with you. It is a decision, and it's a reason why we lose deals. But then again, I think it largely in my world, and I'm not saying this is the case for everybody out there, but it comes down to tying a true dollar value after we uncover all of the
That's
all of the issues.
Yeah, that becomes the business issue. But you also got to understand that if that number is given to somebody who either doesn't have the budget authority, can't take that purchase request and approve it as the final approver, then you've got to talk to the steps who do have to approve that. And this is where reps gets, first, they're not aware of it. Second, they haven't met those people. And third, they don't know what that person cares about and why they would do it. So you're relying on your contact, your champion, to guide that purchase request through their system. And they've never done it before, or they haven't done it in a while, and they don't have the political savvy and capacity, especially technical people, to know how to do that.
Correct. I'll tell you this, Brian. So for me, the best engagements from start to finish in terms of a sales process that I've been a part of, and these, I think we all need to be mindful of the fact that our time is also worth money. Our time is also very important. And asking for time sometimes is something that goes against us or can degrade the value of us as professionals. So the best sales engagements or the best customer interactions that I've had over the years are when we get through uncovering the business problem, we go through some sort of a proof of concept or a model to show them how this can impact their world. And we don't get to price or pricing and packaging until those things are done. Because if there's a problem or struggle that's so just negatively impacting their operations to a certain extent, they don't care about price at that point in time because there's so much pain or there's so much emotional distress as a result of what they're doing. And that's where, when I find those, you don't often find them all the time,
Right.
but when I find those, that's where I tend to really ingrain and input most of my efforts and energy.
And that's it. Because if that pain isn't discovered and recognized by them, and not just the end user, but the person above them who has to approve this. And that's why giving a price to somebody who doesn't have final economic approval, especially anything less than list price, is dangerous because you're giving it to somebody who's not experienced in getting things done politically. I'm sure nobody at your company taught you how to buy stuff for your company. Did you go to a purchasing?
That's very true.
Right?
No.
Do you know how to fill out a purchase request at your company?
No, I do not.
Yeah. I've worked at 12 companies. No one ever taught us how to do that. You know why? They don't want us spending their money. You know, our job is to do
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
Our job is to make other people spend money, yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's been very, very helpful, Brian. And certainly, I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to cover too, but I thank you for understanding, not overcoming, but bypassing objections. I think you've earned the new name, the Objection Godfather.
And I think
the Godfather.
The Godfather. Yeah. Believe me, it isn't innate, and it's not taught anywhere. You know, we hear about, how to build interest and, there's a committee, but until you've done it for a long time and your income is based off of it and you're a competitive person and because you work hard, you put effort into these
Correct.
opportunities, and when they stall, that's lost investment.
That's true. That's very true.
And our managers may not even be aware that this happens because they're used to the active pain sales cycles, the people who are in market, who have that pain that you described, where cost is very secondary to capabilities. So they're used to people wanting to negotiate, wanting to get something done. They're not used to the grinders out there who are working with the B-level opportunities, the ones where we're building up the need, where we're building up the justification with people who don't have economic authority yet. But I'll let you get back to selling.
I like that definition. I like that definition of B-level. Thanks, Brian. Thanks for having me on the show today.
Cool. We'll see you soon.
We'll see
Bye
you.
now.
Bye-bye.